Well, we're going to Melbourne, Australia. She's in our virtual green room. Jessica Mendes joins us, and she's got two really fascinating children's books. And I'm thinking, gosh, birthday parties, kindergarten graduations, so many kids of actually different ages that could really appreciate these stories. Wally the Whippet, Kay the Kelpie. So, Jessica, thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Children's books. How does somebody who's in the safety world jump into writing children's books? And they're so well done. How did this happen?
It's kind of one of those weird stories where I fell into it. Essentially, I'm from Melbourne, and we were all working from home for almost probably a year. And because of the pandemic lockdown, and I'm from Melbourne, where it's probably one of the harshest lockdowns in the world at the time, I guess, where you couldn't go outside for longer than 30 minutes, or, you could only go out for groceries. And so it was a little bit stressful at the time. And I was sort of panic eating a little bit, stress eating. And I noticed that our two dogs, were just obsessed with the concept of food. Every time I opened the fridge or the pantry or a little ruffle of the bag, they were just there and obsessed, and they would cry until they got food and shake. And I just thought this would be an adorable children's book.
So then that led you to the book, and you have dogs, like you said.
I have two dogs. Yes. Yep.
So tell us the real name of the dogs you have and what they are.
Yeah, sure. So Wally the Whippet is sort of a hybrid of my two beautiful dogs, Mia, who's a rescue whippet, and Frankie, who's an Italian greyhound.
Wow. Well, I definitely, this show, we love dogs. I have a dog, Guinness, who's neither one of those breeds, but he would probably pal around with them, and he would definitely be at your heels, just like your dogs if you open any kind of food. So there's people that can relate to that. So tell us about Wally the Whippet. Give us a little, we don't want to give away the whole story, but tell us a little bit about Wally.
Yeah, sure. So I guess Wally is a little kind of sassy whippet who's just desperate for food. And he ends up looking for it everywhere until he pretty much exhausts himself until he finds it, perhaps.
I like that, perhaps. So if you want to know the cliffhanger, you have to get the book. You can get them on Amazon. Okay, so Kay the Kelpie. What happens with Kay the Kelpie?
Kay the Kelpie is similar to Wally in that she has a best friend who's a stuffed animal, and she keeps it in a backpack and takes it everywhere she goes, and, to the beach, camping, and then all of a sudden, one day, she wakes up and her best friend is missing. So similar, she exhausts herself until she maybe finds her again.
All right, I like that. Maybe, perhaps, and maybe. We've got two of those going on. What do you hope kids and even parents and, aunts and uncles and whoever gets the books for whoever they read them to, what do you hope the takeaway is on both of the books?
Pretty much my messages are all about keep searching and you will get the answer. It kind of ties into resilience, and I think children, even though it's a little bit sad that, they go through these emotions, but just to show that there is a happy ending at the end, potentially. And if you keep looking for something, it'll happen for you.
So now after writing both of these books, will you do some more children's books?
It's so funny. Everywhere I go, people find out I've done books about my dogs. They say, can you do my book next? Can you do my dog next? So I've got a long list of people who'd like it next, but eventually I would love to do the next book, possibly because Kay the Kelpie is actually my sister's dog. I would like to do one on my brother's rescue dog too.
Wow. I love that idea of everybody asking you, can you do my dog next? And what about the illustrations? Yeah. Who did the illustrations?
The publishing company actually put them together for me, but I drew them sort of really badly and told them exactly where I wanted things to go, and they brought the colours to life and all the fantastic things for me.
Well, that's okay. You had the imagination for that. And I want to make sure we mention this. Wally the Whippet, you've got an audio version of that too, right?
Yes, I do, yep.
All right. So you can, if you want to get the audio, you can get the audio. And again, all roads lead to Amazon. And we want to throw out your Instagram account for people who want to engage with you too.
Sure. It's author Jessica Mendes, and it's pretty much just me sometimes failing to be an author, fudging my way through life. And so it's a little bit of the dogs, a little bit of myself being a bit silly. And that's where you can find the link to all things book related too.
I love it. Have you always had an affinity for dogs?
Absolutely not. When I was growing up, we were not a dog family. I didn't know what joy and love dogs could bring to people until I sort of met my partner, and he was a beautiful package deal with the 2 dogs, and it was almost 5 years ago. And ever since meeting them, I thought, oh my goodness, what have I been missing out on all this time?
Wow. So that's great. So you adopted the love for the dogs.
Absolutely.
Wow. And then they become superstars in the meantime. So that's a pretty good deal for them.
It's funny you say that, because we were at a petrol station not too long ago, or gas station, you call them in America, and these young girls ran up to us with Frankie, the Italian Greyhound, and, oh my goodness, Kylie Jenner's dog. And they just become absolute rock stars.
I love it. I love it. Well, we can't wait to see what you do next. Again, you can find Jessica Mendes' books on Amazon. Wally the Whippet, Kay the Kelpie. Thanks so much for coming on.
Oh, absolute pleasure. Thank you so much.
Wow, it's so interesting. After talking to Jessica, I have a discovery. I think that Guinness is part Kelpie. So I'm not sure, but it might be a DNA test. The Australian Kelpie is a sheepdog that can, it's kind of medium-sized, and of course her book is just brilliant in the way she weaves the stories together. But the Kelpie has been exported throughout the world, right? So I found that out from somebody, and I was looking some things up about it. And what it does is they call it muster. It musters livestock and sheep and cattle and goats. And there's the show Kelpie, and you've probably heard of that with the Westminster Dog Show. And the show Kelpie is a little bit different in some countries in the way it appears and that kind of stuff, versus the working Kelpie, which is bred for ability rather than appearance. So I'm not sure for sure, except for that I know, like, it's so red. You know, the color of his coat is like the Kelpies that now I'm looking up and seeing. And it's a soft coated, that is Guinness. Medium size, that is Guinness. The ears, the kind of the prick ears, the athletic appearance, just the way he stands. I think he is part retriever, golden retriever, and Kelpie. Wow, that's a crazy mix, isn't it? She'll get you thinking about dogs. As you read her book, you start thinking about dogs. And then whippets. I see whippets sometimes out at the dog park, and they are so pretty. They kind of look like greyhounds, but they're a little bit smaller, and they have that inverted S line of the sighthound kind of, as they describe it. It's got the deep chest and the trim waist and the slim and sturdy legs, and that it's just so agile, and just what an intense spirit. And they like to stretch out and they relax. That's my kind of dog, right? Great companions. They like a fenced yard to run in. Wow, how about that, right? But they're good in apartments. So for people that live in cities, and that's probably why I've seen more whippets living outside of the Dallas area, which is a huge city. I noticed I've seen a lot of whippets, and thanks to Jessica, I can identify them now, and they are really, really pretty dogs. I love the look, just their ears, their eyes, and they do look like, people call whippets the poor man's racehorse. I say it's the rich man's racehorse. It's the whippets are lightning quick, but they're very gentle and they're very dignified. So cool. A couple of dogs to think about. And I love that people are suggesting, hey, my dog. I'm going to send a picture to Jessica and say, what about my dog? What about Guinness? Do a book. Anyway, she was a delight, as is this audience. Thank you so much for hanging with us. Remember, make it count, everybody.